We're ready. Okay, Ed, go ahead.
All right, we're going to be thinking about awakening the inner self today. We human beings have always made assumptions about our origin and destiny. Over the centuries, widely accepted views have been codified into tenets of religious faith or presented as scientific theories. And most of us have accepted what we have been told by those who claim to know. To borrow an idea from The King and I, we are convinced that what we really do not know is so. Now, contrary to the belief systems often offered by many religions, the theosophical view is that we must discover truth within ourselves. It must result from our experience rather than our belief. To experience truth is to understand a principle. That understanding comes to us in a sudden, timeless flash. 1 minute we do not understand, and the next minute we do. There is no measurable time between knowing and not knowing. When such insight illumines the mind, belief is replaced by understanding. The result of that intuitive flash is an experience of integration, wholeness, peace, and in some cases, even bliss. For a timeless moment, we may say that our mind has become one with the universal mind, with truth itself. The knower and the known have become one. There is no longer self and the truth, but only truth. To say that truth must be experienced is not to say that intellectual knowledge is unimportant. There are many critical, important facts that we must learn, such as our home address, the number of miles between our city and another that we wish to visit, or where we keep our coat. There are, however, other kinds of knowledge that we get only from experience. For example, we may read books on how to ride a bicycle, but we'll never be able actually to ride the bicycle until we get on a bicycle and learn to manage it by trial and error. What ancient sages have said, or what our contemporaries may teach, fascinates us. It may fascinate us. The words of others may stimulate us to search further. Yet believing something simply because someone has told it to us is much like reading books on bicycle riding, remembering what was said and thinking we now know how to ride a bicycle. Even though the Theosophical Society has no creed or required beliefs, we who are members of the society are not exempt from centuries during which humanity has been conditioned to rely on authority rather than to discover for ourselves. We too tend to believe what we are told by those whom we admire or by those who appear to know what is true. We too often rely on some authority figure, such as Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Annie Besant, or William Quan Judge, or a contemporary member of the Theosophical Society. In less than 25 years after the founding of the Theosophical Society, one of HPB's adept teachers noticed that the members of the society were falling into the same old rut of belief. While saying that they had no dogma, they were taking his words and those of others as a creed, even though they insisted that no member had to believe those words. They, like many of us now, felt that they knew the truth because someone they respected had told them. Blavatsky, like other wise teachers, insisted that truth could not be taught in words. In The Voice of the Silence, we read, "The teacher can but point the way. Words can do no more. We can express our beliefs and theories in words, but we cannot cause others to experience a truth simply by telling them." Moreover, belief and theory alone are not only sufficient. When they crystallize into a belief system, they can actually block our understanding and spiritual development. That can be illustrated by a simple example. Some friends describe their home to us. They tell us about the various rooms, about their garden and front lawn, and even about the surrounding neighborhood. All they say is completely accurate. We form a picture of their house and its environs as they talk, and we are invited to visit. However, when we actually see the house and the neighborhood, they are different from what we had imagined. A description can only prompt us to discover the reality of the thing described. To know our friend's home, we have, to know our friend's home, we must experience it for ourselves. When we do, it is different from what we believed based on the description. Likewise, if friends describe a delicious but rare tropical fruit that we have never seen or tasted, their description may be completely accurate. It is sweet, they tell us. It tastes something like a blend of mango, peach, and pineapple. Having heard their accurate description, do we know its taste? No, of course not. We must taste it ourselves in order to know. And when we do, it will inevitably taste different from what we imagined. In the same way, when we hear or read a teaching or doctrine, we form an idea out of our own experience of what it refers to. But if we have not ourselves had the experience that the teaching refers to, the ideas we form about it are inevitably false. To say that truth cannot be conveyed in words does not mean that we should abandon theosophical theories or reasonable assumptions about reality. The theories may be quite accurate, the teachings sound. Yet unless we verify them both outside and inside ourselves, we will be caught in error. What we are asked to do is realize that all theories are maps. They are not the places the map represents. For millennia, we have been taught that each of us either has or is a soul, a spirit, an inner self. Without proof, many choose to believe that. Without proof, others choose not to believe it. Surrounded by a multitude of conflicting theories and beliefs, can we ever really come to know truth from falsehood? Theosophical and other spiritual literature offers clues that may lead us to the awakening of our inner self and to discover that we not only have a soul, but we are a soul. Those clues are not a series of facts to be learned. They are not instructions for setting up a scientific laboratory in which we can prove to ourselves and others the truth or falsehood about the inner self. Rather, these clues are guidelines for living in such a way that we actually become the scientific laboratory ourselves. At the very heart of this way of life, leading to certain knowledge, are two essential principles: a relentless pursuit of truth and compassion. The first of these, a relentless pursuit of truth, is implied by the Theosophical Society's motto: there is no religion higher than truth. But what is truth? When Pilate asked that question, Jesus did not answer. He was silent, perhaps because although ideas, theories, and opinions can be put into words, truth cannot. In Helena Blavatsky's The Golden Stairs, two of the requirements for reaching the temple of divine wisdom are an open mind and an eager intellect. The temple of divine wisdom is synonymous with the inner self. To reach that temple is to awaken the inner self. Most of us would like to think we have an open mind and an eager intellect. But when it comes to theosophical or other spiritual literature, do we acknowledge inconsistencies, contradictions, errors in fact, and even blatant prejudice if we find it? Or do we explain it away or ignore it like those who believe blindly in the doctrine of their choice? Moreover, do we clearly see our own failings, inconsistencies, and inadequacies? Are we searching for understanding, or are we defending our beliefs? If we persist in holding on to our beliefs in spite of evidence to the contrary, we may fall into a subtle form of selfishness that Blavatsky's adept teacher, Kutumi, called a dangerous selfishness in the higher principles. As an example, he states that there are persons so intensely absorbed in the contemplation of their own supposed righteousness that nothing can ever appear right to them outside the focus of their own vision and their judgment of the right and wrong. The adepts claim that they teach only what they know for themselves. If one of their brotherhood claims to have discovered a principle, no adept will accept it until it can be verified and re-verified by the other adepts. Since the adepts will not accept any doctrine without verification, why should we? They reject blind belief, and they encourage us to do the same. Kutumi, KH, often spoken of as known as KH, wrote, a student is at perfect liberty and often quite justified from the standpoint of appearances to suspect his guru of being a fraud. That is to suspect the adept of being a fraud. The greater, the sincerer indignation, whether expressed in words or boiling in his heart, the more fit he is, the better qualified to become an adept. He is free to use the most abusive words and expressions regarding his guru's actions and orders, provided he resists all and every temptation, rejects every allurement, and proves that nothing, not even the promise of adeptship, is able to make him deviate from the path of truth and honesty. That comes, I think, as a shock to many members of the society, that you may say terrible words about something that KH has asked you to do because you feel it's not right. Now, it should be self-evident that pursuing the path of truth and honesty is ultimately best for everyone. Yet few are willing to make the personal sacrifices necessary to do it. Many are so attached to their beliefs that they identify with them. They think of themselves as Christians, Jews, or atheists. The search for truth is not an effort to prove what we believe. The search begins with an open mind and acceptance of our ignorance. Pride, vanity, and status stand in the way. We do not want to take a courageous stand that may alienate us from the community. We tend not to want evidence that might contradict our beliefs because a challenge to our worldview threatens our security. We prefer the comfort of an acceptable worldview held by many. To step outside of that requires not only courage, but genuine humility. Lacking those qualities, we accept conclusions that feel comforting rather than truth, which may require radical self-transformation. We see the emperor fully clothed when he is indeed naked. In the voice of the silence, we read, the doctrine of the eye is for the crowd, the doctrine of the heart for the elect. The first repeat in pride, behold, I know. The last, who in humbleness have garnered, lo confess, thus have I heard. Be humble if thou wouldst attain to wisdom. Be humbler still when wisdom thou hast mastered. Be like the ocean which receives all streams and rivers. The ocean's mighty calm remains unmoved, it feels them not. Wisdom or truth and the inner self have a very curious relationship. More than a relationship, it is an identity. Again, from the voice of the silence, have perseverance as one who doth forevermore endure. Thy shadows live and vanish. That would be the personality. That which in thee shall live forever That which in thee knows, for it is knowledge, is not of fleeting life. It is the man that was, that is, and will be, for whom the hour shall never strike. The search for knowledge, truth, and wisdom are intricately woven together with compassion. Annie Besant once said, "Love is the response that comes from a realization of oneness." Compassion is impersonal love. It is a response that comes from a realization of our deepest unity. While the search for knowledge alone may lead to selfishness, the search for ultimate truth leads toward realization of unity, and the response to that realization is universal compassion. Perhaps the most powerful statement on compassion ever written is in The Voice of the Silence. Let thy soul lend its ear to every cry of pain, like as the lotus bears its heart to drink the morning sun. Let not the fierce sun dry one tear of pain before thyself hast wiped it from the sufferer's eye. But let each burning human tear drop on thy heart and there remain, nor ever brush it off until the pain that caused it is removed. These two principles, the relentless pursuit of truth and compassion, are the hallmarks of the true theosophist, and they lead to the awakening of the inner self, an altruistic life, and the regenerating practical brotherhood that the adepts say they want. They lead to those results, that is, if our motive is impersonal and without thought of self. If in our search we are motivated by hope of personal gain, then we are, as the Bible says, laying up treasures on earth where moth and rust doth corrupt. But if we are motivated by what Helena Blavatsky calls an inexpressible longing for the infinite, then we cannot go wrong. The great search requires study, meditation, and service. It requires, above all, that we forget self. If we will do that, we can awaken the inner self. When that happens, for a fleeting eternity, we are one with the infinite. Out of that timeless flash, there comes bliss, joy, and the peace that passes understanding. Yet even though we experience that awesome reality, we have not yet won the victory. It is only after the first awakening that the arduous work begins, the work of gaining complete mastery over our whole nature. Like Plato's wild horses, our bodies, emotions, and mind drag us in all directions, and we feel helpless to master them. Have we not all noticed that at times our body demands that we overeat, oversleep, or underexercise? Is it not also true that when we allow our emotions to rage or drag us down in depression, we cannot think and work effectively? As to the mind, the most difficult of all to master, it leads us where it wants to go, with its apparently unending stream of thoughts and memories. We become distracted and unable to focus the mind, to make it one-pointed, to direct it to the area of search rather than the repeated thoughts stored up as memory. Once the inner self has been experienced, the great work begins, the work of gaining mastery over our whole nature. We begin to learn how to direct our bodies, emotions, and mind from that unspeakable center, which while yet functioning in the everyday world. Self-transformation such as that requires effort and perseverance. It is not accomplished in a moment or even in years. It takes lifetimes. To follow the spiritual path is not easy. It is steep and thorny. Yet if we persevere to the end, we will reach the temple of divine wisdom, which is the very heart of our universe. When victory is won, the reward past all telling is there. We will have awakened the inner self, and we will be it. Now, the Golden Stairs, I think many of you have, was given to Blavatsky by one of her teachers, probably Moria, but she didn't say. And he said, give it to those you teach. Do you have? Do you have the, okay, I'll read it. So this is the way of life required to awaken the inner self. Behold the truth before you, a clean life, an open mind, a pure heart, an eager intellect, an unveiled spiritual perception, a brotherliness for one's co-disciple, a readiness to give and receive advice and instruction, a loyal sense of duty to the teacher, a willing obedience to the behests of truth once we have placed our confidence in and believe that teacher to be in possession of it, a courageous endurance of personal injustice, a brave declaration of principles, a valiant defense of those who are unjustly attacked, and a constant eye to the ideal of human progression and perfection, which the secret science depicts. These are the golden stairs up the steps of which the learner may climb to the temple of divine wisdom. That's an outline of the life that is necessary. HPB once wrote, live the life necessary and wisdom will come to you naturally. Now, another piece that HPB wrote, it was found in her writings after she died. Mrs. Besant discovered it. It had no title, but it's always been called There Is a Road, that being the first line of the piece. There is a road, steep and thorny, beset with perils of every kind, but yet a road, and it leads to the very heart of the universe. I can tell you how to find those who will show you the secret gateway that opens inwardly only and closes fast behind the neophyte forevermore. There is no danger that dauntless courage cannot conquer. There is no trial that spotless purity cannot pass through. There is no difficulty that strong intellect cannot surmount. For those who win onward, there is reward past all telling, the power to bless and save humanity. For those who fail, there are other lives in which success may come. So Blavatsky was no Pollyanna and she was no doomsday prophet. She told it like it is. She said to us basically, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be steep and thorny, and there's lots of perils, and you're not going to have an easy time of it, but you can do it. You can do it because dauntless courage, spotless purity, strong intellect can win onward. Now, those two pieces, I think, are guides to how we might come to awaken the inner self. I can tell you from my experience, and there are millions of others, I am not in any way unique. I can tell you from experience that by deep meditation, by persistent meditation, by the effort, every meditation to become one with the eternal, there does come a time when there is a sudden flash of consciousness, and there is no longer any me. There is no longer any time. There is only eternity. There is only the inner self. You can do it, but you can't do it by just believing it. You can't do it by just doing one or two meditations. It's a persistent, constant effort throughout your entire life. I wish it were otherwise, but it's not. That's how it is. So thank you all. And now for any questions or comments.
So this is
I have a
Amir.
question.
I do.
Yeah, I have a question as well. So please go ahead and then I'll ask my question.
Okay. So just a few minutes ago, you said that we require, in order to achieve this higher learning, it's a continuous daily effort, correct? Is that what I get from what you said earlier?
Continuous daily effort.
Continuous daily effort.
Yes, it does. It's an effortless effort, however. Allegedly, once Ms. Blavatsky saw Annie Besant meditating, and she said, "We do not meditate by the furrows of the brow, Annie." See, that's that personal push, you see. It's an effortless effort. It's a quiet awareness. It's a constant inner effort, seeking truth, seeking understanding, but it's not personal.
Because what I the way I think about effort and continuous, kind of like an exercise, you know, when you get on the treadmill daily, and then there's a day that comes when you're like, I just don't want to do this today, and then you stop, right? And it's hard to get back on that treadmill again. You know, you'll say, I'll get back on it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you feel a bit lazy and you don't. And then days may go by, weeks may go by. So I kind of see a parallel between physical, continuous effort put forth and the mental, spiritual one too.
Yes, there's a dichotomy between the physical and the spiritual. Didn't St. Paul say that the spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak? You see, the body wants to do what it wants. In fact, at death, the body does not want to die. It wants to continue, but it does die, it must die. So that kind of effort, eventually it becomes a way of life. It is always in the back of our minds, not in the conscious forefront of our mind. We have to do our daily work, our daily activities. We cannot be in two places at the same time. The consciousness is one-pointed. I made that very clear in the Foundations of the Ageless Wisdom program and the video. We can do many things at the same time, but not consciously. Our conscious attention is always one-pointed. That's true even of the adepts, because K.H. once wrote that his student, Jwal Kul, who lived near him, had broken his nose because he ran into a beam in the home, because he didn't realize he was going to do that, and he caused his nose to bleed. K.H. said, "I was not aware of it, because I was not thinking of him," implying that if he had been thinking of him, he would have been aware of it. Many people can sometimes get what someone else is feeling or thinking just by being a little bit quiet. I mean, I've done that often, but KH can do it at will whenever he wants. So by focusing his conscious attention somewhere, he can get it at once rather than having to go through some kind of a process. So yes, we're one-pointed in consciousness, but we train the mind eventually to look inward toward the inner self. The mind through meditation becomes more focused. We are more able to control the mind. I shouldn't say control, I don't like that word, to direct the mind. The mind wants to take us in all sorts of directions. Just think about your own experience. Don't you get a whole stream of consciousness frequently? Your mind has this thought, which leads to another thought, which leads to a third thought. It just pulls us one direction and the other. It is really difficult to focus on one thing and not allow the mind to pull us in another direction. Mrs. Besant once was talking about psychokinesis, the ability to move something with your mind. And she held up a watch and she said, you have to be focused. She said, just think of the watch, nothing else for 1 minute. Within a few seconds, people were thinking, why does she want us to look at a watch? What's the point of all this? What's that going to do? Right away, the mind wants to have other thoughts about it instead of just focusing on the watch. So that's not easy to do because we've been conditioned for years to just follow the mind's will. So it's not easy, but we can do it. It just takes time. It takes effortless effort, a constant effort within to focus the mind toward the inner self. Now, of course, as I said before, you have to go back to your daily activities. You can't do that all your life. The adepts couldn't either. It's just something that eventually becomes easier. In my meditations, I used to follow a meditation that Dora Kuntz recommended, universal kind of meditation. It's a wonderful meditation, and if anybody wants what I give for handouts at meditation workshops, email me. I'll send you the handouts that I give out at meditation workshops. And what was I going to say?
The meditation.
Yeah, she led a meditation course in New York, which I took and Mary took, and I learned to meditate through her teachings. And not her words, because she was not very good with words, although she had a very large vocabulary. She was able to stimulate something inside of an individual that sort of touched on a deeper consciousness and helped them to meditate. So, but it's that constant inner effort that is required.
May I make a couple of comments?
Yes, of course.
Just to give you a little background, we have a spiritual retreat center here, and we have we have a board of directors and we have an advisory board, and we have ascended masters on both. And of course, Kathumi and El Moye are on them, and that's why I was prompted to join your organization today, to view it today. They wanted me to view this, and I understand why now. So I'm hearing a lot of constant effort, and I think the effort is to not have effort, and that's the effort. So Kathumi and many other masters have done a lot of teachings over the last 5 years or 7 years here. So I'd like to share just a couple of things very quickly about, I do not meditate. I endeavor to be in both worlds at the same time, which means you can be in the oneness and be fully present simultaneously. So the idea is that the best meditation is to be fully present and aware of what you're doing, and time just disappears. It's just, there's no such thing as time anyway. So what I want to say is I think it would be beneficial if we endeavored to be human beings instead of human doings. When you do a rote meditation for the sake of achieving something, you set the stage that you don't have it already, because you have to do something to achieve something. I have to do something to achieve mastery. I have to meditate. I have to listen to the masters or Blavatsky's teachings, which are phenomenal, but they only point to going within yourself and finding your divinity. That we are, Einstein said, and many other people, that we are creating our own reality. This has been proven, it's not a theory. So we have 8 billion people on the planet creating 8 billion realities, and they overlap in some areas. However, for the most part, it's your world. And there are holographic versions. And I don't want to go into quantum mechanics here. However, just the tip of the iceberg. So I just want to share that if we endeavor to stop endeavoring, I think we will wake up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's something in the chat. Oh, thank you, Marcia.
Anything else?
The only thing I'd like to add to that is I have a meditation that I do. It's not a meditation. I play a song, a 7-minute song that's very etheric, you know, way out there. You know, it's no words to the music. It's just to get me in a deeper state. And the first 7 minutes, I write down everything that my conscious mind wants to say. Oh, I got to do this today, and I got to do that or whatever. And so I get that out of the way, and then the next 7 minutes, I listen to my higher self, or my aspects, or my walk-ins, or guides, angels, you might want to call them, the voices in your head, the Anunnaki, I don't care who, whatever you want to say, who's talking to you and giving you words through the Fikr or the DNA, and the 60-volt cycles of the house, and you're all being bombarded with these messages. So I let that come out for 7 minutes. And then I go into the next level, which is the God self. We call it God source energy. So once I get those voices calmed down, and I've given them voice, the next 7 minutes, I ask God source energy. And in that one, I just listen to the music, and all I say is clear, clear, clear. I don't want any other thoughts, just clear, clear, clear. And at the end of that 7 minutes, I usually write something down. And for the last 10 years, all I get from that basically is, we give you the desires of your heart. And I ask at what level am I talking to, and it's the highest level, which is the collective. Then I played another song for 7 minutes. And again, it's clear. Now I'm really clear. I have no voices in my head. I have no thoughts. And then I ask, what does my heart want me to know? And that's usually a little spiritual guidance for myself, for my body, for my actions, for my words. Something there comes through. So there's a 28-minute, I don't call it a meditation, but it's listening to the levels of voices in your head and putting them in categories so that you can be clear at the end to what your heart is really telling you would be most appropriate at that point in time.
Thank you.
For the 28-minute ritual. Thank you. Anyone else?
It doesn't have to be 28 minutes, but I find about 5 or 7 minutes is enough time. Occasionally, I'll have to play this song the second time for my mind, because I've got a lot of things on my mind, and I write this all down. So you write it all down to get it out of your head. And then once you get it out of your head, you're ready for the next level. So it could be longer than 28 if you wanted to do it, because sometimes I have to play it twice for the higher self, or my aspects, or my walk-ins, or my guides, or my angels. They got a lot they want to tell me, so I'll write that down. But once they tell me, then I ask them, you know, be quiet now, because I'm going into the next level. So I don't get any of those, you know. I used to be schizophrenic, but we're all okay now.
Used to be one.
He used to be schizophrenic. Thank you. Anyone else?
Amir, I think you have a question earlier. Could you go ahead and ask?
Actually, there's
Yeah, my question was just share a simple way to meditate that I could do every day, and hopefully try to clear my head to the next level.
Amir Shah is asking for a simple way to meditate, just to clear his head.
Yes, I can email me and I will send you the handouts I do at the meditation workshops I used to lead. One is, there is our suggested meditation that Dora Kunz devised that is universal. It is not religious. It doesn't say anything about any theosophical concept. It is a way of quieting the mind. That is the first necessity in meditation, as far as I'm concerned. The very first thing in meditation must be, I think, to quiet the mind, and then to send peace out to the world. And then the second important part of the meditation is to be totally, absolutely still, but not the stillness of the graveyard, a stillness where the mind is exceedingly alert, but not with thought. And then then the mind tries to focus on that inner center, that inner still point. That is the second, and to me, most important part of meditation. And when one does that, there comes that shift in consciousness eventually, where there's the no me, there's only eternity, and there's no time. That can be achieved. And I will be glad to send anyone those meditation handouts. There are,
Thank you. I will email you. I will email you. Thank you.
yeah.
Dora also said to think of a tree
Or a mountain.
or a mountain or the ocean or something in nature that helps you ground.
Something that you have experienced where you felt peaceful. So you imagine that for a moment in your mind, and you try to have that peace be present in you now, here and now, not in the past. The symbol of the tree or the image of the tree is just to prompt that sense of peace and stillness. So that would be a very helpful thing to quiet the mind, to just focus on that for a bit until the mind becomes quieter.
And we have a Jamshed, I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, probably.
What?
He says, it's always a tremendous learning experience. Thank you. Well, thank you.
Yeah, we learn until we're dead, and maybe even after.
That's true.
The ignorant know it all, the intelligent doubt.
I just want to say thank you, Mary, for putting together the presentation. Those are excellent slides. I did these slides before for our group, and it's very difficult to put together the slide. So thank you very much for putting together the slide for us. And I just have a question in terms of meditation. Like, for example, if you want to drop a bad habit and adopt a good habit, do you actually meditate on something higher than the good habit, or is it just the good habit that you focus on?
I didn't get any of it. Mary has to translate.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to hear.
Yeah, he has difficulty hearing, so I'm going to try to rephrase. If you have a bad habit and you want to replace that with a good habit, when you meditate, do you meditate on something higher than all of that? Or what?
There are many methods of meditation. I never did that kind of meditation, but I have changed over the years. I mean, the man I was when I first came to New York no longer exists, and I'm really glad he doesn't. The man that Mary married no longer exists. Mary and I have both changed a lot because we are dedicated to self-transformation and to the Theosophical Society and the teachings of the society. So you can change. There is a way of meditating on a virtue if you want to do that. I wouldn't say it's a bad idea. It's probably a good idea. So from hate, you would think of love, for example. KH once wrote, hate and love are the two immortal emotions. They bind us, by the way, if they're personal. If you don't want to be connected to anyone that you dislike in the future, do not hate them, because that will bind you to them. Just as personal love binds you to another individual. Eventually, it is supposed to be, we are supposed to reach the state of universal love, which the adepts claim they have reached. Now, they did not lose their personality. They still have a personality, and the KH and Moria have very different personalities.
Я включу, он также включается.
Someone's talking in the background. We're hearing some.
What is?
That had nothing to do with us, I don't think.
Oh, it wasn't. It was just background talk. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, in the meditation handouts, as I said, I give suggestions for 2 types of meditation. And then I give a whole bunch of quotes about meditation. And I present the idea of a seed meditation, taking a thought, or in the case that was just mentioned, maybe a virtue. and thinking of, and pondering on that, centering on that, not thinking about it, not analyzing it, but just becoming aware of it, you see.
Thank you for the answer. And
Once a month,
What?
once a month for Eastern time, I think it's 11 o'clock, New York time. The European school has a meditation. It's a half-hour meditation. And I find it very powerful. It's led by Julia Bates.
Yeah. European School of Theosophy.
So the EUST, the European School, it's only once a month. I wish it was like every day, but she leads a very powerful meditation, and you might find that helpful. It is based on the TOS meditation, which is different from the but you might find it of interest. You can look it up on the website or ask and we'll send you the link.
And what is the website?
The European School of Theosophy website.
I'm doing the Dharma talk for them tomorrow. They get maybe 60 people or more from all around Europe and the United States and other places. So I did that for the Houston Lodge, so you probably wouldn't want to hear it again, but I'm going to do that for them tomorrow. And then October 3rd, I'm doing something for the Seattle Theosophical Society. It's on In Their Own Words. It's about the adept teachers of H.P. Blavatsky, K.H. and Moria. So I will do that about the Mahatmas on October 3rd.
yeah, and could you go ahead and share with us the info when you have it available as well on October 3rd?
Sure, we will.
Thank you.
I can't read all that.
Okay, it says, you mentioned 3 things: study, meditate, and service. I'm okay with the first 2. There is no time for service if you have a partner you need to take care of. Actually,
That's service.
that is service. If you're taking care of someone, that is a high level of service.
Service is doing what you see that you can do. It's doing what you can do, not what you can't do. We need to know the difference between what we can and can't do. We see homeless people on the streets in Manhattan. We cannot take them all in. It would ruin our lives. It would ruin our ability to help others. So we do what we can, and we recognize what we cannot do. So service is really an attitude of mind. It's walking along the street, somebody falls, we instantly stop what we're doing, stop walking, say, oh, are you hurt? Can I help you? Do you need a doctor? Do you need an ambulance? We just automatically do that. That is service. Almost anyone does that. To go beyond that and sacrifice your time is a more difficult thing to do, which not so many people do. Smiling is a service. In the supermarket, sometimes I see a clerk. Well, I can't go anymore. My wife does it for me because of back problems. So anyway, in the supermarket, when I used to be there, I would see a clerk who looked so down in the dumps. Well, I would make her laugh. She'd have a big smile and she was happier. That is service, you see. You're not thinking, oh, I am going to serve. No, you do what's natural. It's meditation and study that brings about this inevitable attitude of service. You can't help yourself. It's your nature to do whatever you can to alleviate the suffering of someone else, you see. Dora Kunz was like that. She helped thousands of people over her lifetime, heard some of the most awful, traumatic, horrendous human situations. She would do what she could to help. And when she couldn't do any more, she would get up and leave, drop it, and say to her friends, let's have an ice cream. She was able to do that, to actually do whatever she could to help and then let it go. Mrs. Besant once said, if there is a work you cannot do, it is not your work.
Thank you.
Jamshed posted the European school dates
Okay.
for the healing meditation. It's a meditation healing circle.
Okay.
Obviously, most of those are past, but the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are there. So thank you, Jamshed.
Yes, you're welcome.
Someone posted service to yourself is paramount.
Yes, we have to take care of ourselves, don't we? That doesn't mean we have to be self-centered. It just means when the body is hungry and needs food, we need to eat. That's all. We just do it. If anyone, by the way, if anyone wants to be on a list to be notified of future talks I do, email me and I'll put you on the list. I don't put anyone on who does not ask to be put on. And on that list, I only send notices of talks that are coming up.
I understand there can be higher states of beingness and awareness. And in those higher states of awareness or consciousness, we become the observer, which means we don't fix anything. And that is based on an understanding that this label that we have called God or source energy or the creator or the architect of our universal matrix made it a self-fulfilling prophecy for all individuals to create their own reality in a holographic computer program or whatever you want to perceive it to be. But going back to the concept that the creator of everything that is seen, in other words, that comes into form from dark matter, which is being pushed by dark energy, which is all unseen, that everything that has form comes from one source and we are all one. And so if that's true, then all that is, was, and ever will be is what we are calling God. And if all that is, was, and ever will be is God, then is there anything really broken? Or is it just cycles of circles of life happening over and over again, like a tree dying and the leaves seed the ground and then it comes back again? So is it just cycles and cycles? And if that is true, then if everyone else is creating their own reality, then is there anyone else that needs to be fixed or helped? Doesn't mean it's not part of the game or the life you've chosen or the experiences that you want to evolve your awareness or consciousness. So I just throw that out there. If it sometimes you can do a disservice by helping somebody heal something, for instance, and that wasn't what they wanted because they didn't get the lesson. So now they have to reincarnate and come back and have another experience because you took that experience away from them. So we have an issue, not an issue. We have a challenge working with people that are healers, and you know, in the fifth dimensional reality, everyone is doing self-healing, so no one really needs to be healed. Or if you keep giving them fish, they'll never learn how to fish. So I'll close off now with that concept of there can be a higher state of awareness where we're observers and lovers, and everything is energy. So if we're just putting out love, understanding, and compassion for all that is, was, and ever will be, then is that enough service? And we're enjoying our life to the fullest. No?
He questioned whether we should help other people because then they don't learn the lesson that they were supposed to.
We should not interfere with anyone else's life. I have frequently had people come to me for advice. I think they come to me because they know I'm not going to give them any advice. I listen to them. I listen, and then I clear my mind, listen, and point them in one direction or another. I will say, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Have you thought of the other? It's like shining a flashlight in dark corners. And suddenly they often say, oh, I never thought of that. I think that's what I should do. So we do not ever interfere. I never, ever tell anyone what to do, except in the case of imminent danger. I might tell them then, you know, you're in great danger, you've got to do something. But do not ever, I would suggest, try to tell someone what to do. Their life is their life. You can help others, but only by shining a light in a direction they might not have thought of. I'll tell this story I told recently again. Many years ago, I spoke for the Florida Theosophical Society in Miami, I think it was. They had an anniversary, like their 75th year of anniversary. And they had a big weekend. I was just one part of it. I gave one lecture. Well, they didn't advertise it very well. And they had a very small number of people, maybe not more than a dozen when they expected 100 or more. So anyway, I gave my talk. And afterward, a woman came up to me and she had a personal problem that was weighing on her very badly. And she told me, I cleared my mind, because I always do that if somebody asks me for advice. My thoughts have to go. My ideas have to go. I have to listen to the other person. I listened to her. And then I said, I don't even remember what her problem was, and I don't remember what I said, but I got an insight into what to say. And when I said it, tears came in her eyes. And she said, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I thought, well, the whole weekend was worth it for that one woman. I mean, I didn't tell her what to do. I gave her some suggestion. I said something that might help her. It helped her, and she was grateful. But she had to have the experience herself, you see, and know what to do. So never interfere. I knew a woman years ago who interfered in everybody's life. She tried to run everybody's life. Of course, it backfired. It just doesn't work. We can't change somebody else.
It seems though to me that there are some things where you instantly want to help. If you see a child running out into the street and there's a car coming, you scream for the car to stop, or you try to grab the kid and get them off the street. That seems to me, that's service, and I think that's kind of essential. Or if you see somebody fall, you help them get up. You don't just leave them lying in the sidewalk.
It's a way of life. Service is an attitude of mind, a way of life. We're not conscious of it. It's just we do what we have to do. We couldn't do anything else. I sometimes tell the story of, well, it's not a story, it's a true event. In Spanish, I'm fluent in Spanish. There's a better way of putting it, historia or a cuento. A historia means a factual story, and a cuento means a made-up story. Well, when I was teaching the foundations course in New York, I'd have maybe 30 people that I never saw before. They came because of the advertisement. And I would say to them at one point, now, if a woman leaves here, goes out after the talk, after the program is over, and leaves her purse, wouldn't you yell, oh, miss, you left your purse. You wouldn't take the money out of it first, would you? And they all laugh. Why? You know better. You couldn't take the money out of her purse. It would be totally against your character. So you act out of instinct. You act out of your character. Blavatsky says that the septenary part of the human being perishes sometime after death. That is, the personality eventually goes never to be reincarnated, ever, ever, ever. But the ethics, she said, sink into and take hold of the real human being, the reincarnating ego, the reincarnating self. So that what we learn in this life in terms of values and learn about living the right way, a way that is harmonious, that stays with us and it becomes part of our character. Some people do not know it's wrong to steal. Some people do not know it's wrong to kill. They could kill a human being as they'd kill a roach. Doesn't matter to them. They have no conscience. They have never learned that lesson. You and I have learned those rudimentary lessons. So it becomes part of your character, and you remember not individual events in a past life, usually, except in cases of quick reincarnation, which I don't have time to go into. We learn to from the experience that has taught us how to live. I was going to say something else, but it's gone.
We remember the learning. We don't
Oh yeah,
remember
we
the
remember.
experience.
I think we remember culture. I'm pretty sure we do. I have no proof of it. Proof is the word I never use anyway. I have evidence in myself for remembering cultures. I have a profound connection to the Roman Empire and to medieval England and France. From the time I was a child, anything about the Roman Empire intrigued me. And when I was in Rome, walking through the Il Foro and the various ruins, it was déjà vu, you know. I don't remember specifically, but I felt quite comfortable there. And then in England and France, I didn't know until I was in college that England and France had been connected, England even ruling part of France for a while, you see. I didn't know that. Now, if I was in England at that time, the English Channel is not very broad. The boats could have gone across quite easily, and they did. So I could have gone back and forth between France and England. As far as Eastern Europe goes, it's a flyover zone to me. It means absolutely nothing. India, you'd think I would be intrigued by India because of the philosophy. No, Mary and I were there. I taught the School of the Wisdom for a month in 2005 in January. I enjoyed it very much, but I didn't want to go touring through India. No interest. Egypt, a lot of the members are interested in Egypt because of the theosophical content of their philosophy. Not me, but England and France, yes, very much so. Now I came to the TS and I found out that a theory is that the average person, such as you and I, goes 800 years between incarnations, average. Obviously, not everybody does that. Then I thought, wow, Roman Empire, medieval England, United States, roughly 800 years between each. So, and I think the music also, you remember, I am drawn immediately to Gregorian chant. Mary, she likes it as well, but mainly she's drawn to Russian choral music. Did she live in Russia? Did I live in Europe during the Middle Ages? I don't know. I grew up in a Protestant church that was very Protestant, something like Methodist Baptist. Not even only a cross on the communion table, nothing else, no ritual. I saw Catholic ritual, I was home. I wouldn't join the church because I didn't believe what they taught. Now I'm a liberal Catholic priest. The liberal Catholic Church was founded by Wedgwood and Leadbeater, who Leadbeater had been an Anglican priest. And so that church was compatible to theosophical philosophy, no dogmas. And so I joined and eventually was ordained priest. And the last mass I said, I think was near Wheaton, Illinois. There's a liberal Catholic church. There's a very lovely little church. And I said a mass there. I also did one in New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. So, but I can't do it anymore. And my ideas about God I accept the Adepts' idea of God. They say we do not believe in any God, especially one that requires a capital H for his pronoun. And then about creation, Sinnett must have asked about creation. What did they think about how the world was created? And KH wrote back to him, go on thinking that nature and humans were created and you'll be up against hard facts forever. But once realize that neither nature or humans were created any more than this iceberg now before me, and all will become clear. No one created the iceberg. It's a state of water in the sea. We are a state within the eternal, a temporary state like waves of the sea.
Thank you for sharing that. There's
Sure.
An interesting quantum understanding that is kind of way out there, and very few quantum physicists even believe in it, but some do. and that is that the building blocks of reality, of course, is electrons, protons, and neutrons, but basically the electron, which is in superposition, and then when observed, and we observe it into reality, all of them. But there is a theory that's very interesting, and I've been dabbling with it lately, and that is that the whole universe is just one electron. It's only one electron.
He's one line.
The Dalai Lama wrote a book called The Universe in a Single Atom. And there were a lot of that was based on quantum physics as well. The idea that the universe is simply an electron, and of course an electron isn't a thing, it's more of a field, a negative force field, which of course has the balance of the protons, which is the positive. But underneath those, all things are quarks.
A lot of quantum physicists are seeing electrons, or again, the building blocks of reality, as nothing more than thoughts or potentials for reality, but however, not anything that is solidified until we have a conscious desire to have it solidified. And there were many experiments done with Greg Braden in the military, how this reality that we're seeing is not here until we think it's there, and then it shows up. And there's been many experiments done to prove that scientifically, with the television screen, with random pictures coming up that are good and evil, or horrible and pleasant, and the person would react to them when they see them. And when they measured the time distance between when they see the horrible picture or the pleasant picture to the time that they react to it, they found out that they reacted before the picture came up. So that had them question, then what are we seeing? Are we really seeing anything that's out there if we're reacting to what we see before we see it? And that's just one of 3 experiments that were done to prove that what we're seeing is not out here, it's in our perception, and then we have this experience of it, kind of like a virtual reality game. When you put it on, you think you're there, but that's not really the you that's there.
Einstein said their field is the only reality, and that matter was an intensification of the field. And so when you look at electrons, they're not things, they're just fields.
And fields are non-material.
And of course, I say just very sarcastically because they are fields.
We come attached to this concept of reality, don't we? And it's a good addiction. And if there's good and bad, that's a good addiction.
Certain things are good.
You know, as the Jewish mother said, if there's no self, whose arthritis is this?
I like Woody Allen. Woody Allen said, quote, if reality is an illusion, I definitely pay too much for my carpet.
Right.
Yeah, he said he's not afraid of death. He just doesn't want to be there when it happens.
Yeah. And we don't have to be. We can just step out of that, That too is an illusion. Einstein said reality is an illusion, albeit a stubbornly persistent one. And thank God for that. Otherwise, if we had instant manifestation, woo.
I have a question.
So
Yes.
Ed.
Right.
Ed, I have one simple question. You mentioned that you have some connection with the part of France and England, and then your wife have some connection with Russian old chant. Can you tell us, for example, if there another person from another continent, it can be North America or South America, it can be Asia, it can be Australia, how they can identify this 300 years ago or 600 years ago after the Roman Empire being dissolved, then you have medieval age, and then you have our modernists. How you identify this was exactly England, or for your wife, it was exactly Russian chant? It's based on what? On your meditation or something which already exists in your consciousness? Thank you.
I think I understand it.
Yeah.
It's something within your own consciousness. I mean, I was not aware of England when I was a child. I was not aware of the Roman Empire. I'd obviously never been in the Roman Empire. I mean, as Ed Abdill anyway. But when I heard about the Roman Empire, immediately I felt somehow connected to it. And when I heard about England and France, I felt comfortable with England and France. When I was in high school, I wanted to learn French. And a friend of mine said, oh, I'm going to go into the Spanish class. And I tried to convince him to go into the French class. No, he was going to take Spanish. I said, okay, I'll take Spanish with you. Fortunately, I did, because that led me to the Latin American Institute after high school, where I learned Spanish much better than in high school. And a teacher there in a conversation class with about only 6 students, of which I was one, introduced me to theosophy. I gave a talk about comparative religion, and she brought me a pamphlet translated from English, ¿Qué es teosofía? What is theosophy? And I asked her if she had any books in English, preferably, and she brought me some the next day. She was a member of the Spanish-speaking group of the New York Theosophical Society. Having been in that class, I was introduced to theosophy. It changed my entire life. It transformed my whole life from that one thing. I cannot believe it was chance that I was in that class. It was destiny. And it was because I learned Spanish. And now I'm fluent in Spanish and I love speaking it. And we have a Mexican cleaning woman, and her English isn't the best, so I speak to her in Spanish.
Interesting. It means without your connection with the class of theosophy, you will never ever recognize your connection with the culture of old Roman Empire, with medieval England and medieval France. Are this clear that only theosophy allowed you to somehow to pick up the tune of Roman Empire, England and France? Or something else, or maybe it's your personal feeling.
Yeah, I'm going to get Mary to translate it.
Okay.
I think that he felt the connection, but wasn't aware that there was a theosophical or reincarnation implication there.
Okay.
I was aware of the connection with Russia, but I can't say that it was 800 years or anything. It's just that I have that feeling for that kind of music. I also have a feeling for a lot of the Celtic music. So, but these are things, whatever seems to be, to resonate with you. And then if you look at it, maybe there is an 800-year connection or cycle, but maybe not. Maybe it's just something you happen to like. You can't really say. We know a little bit, and then we try to, take that little bit of knowledge and apply it to everything. And we have to be very careful.
So yeah, when I was in high school and read the Canterbury Tales, I was intrigued. I was fascinated with the Canterbury Tales. Then we've been to England, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And once when we were there, I said to Mary, I want to go to Canterbury. Well, you can get almost anywhere in England in a day. So we rented a car and Mary drove us to Canterbury. I got to the cathedral, the world vanished, including Mary. I had to know where the bishop, Thomas à Becket, was murdered. Was I in Canterbury in a past life? I have no idea. Oh, I know I had to know that, because when I first heard about the murder of the bishop in the cathedral, I was horrified and I had to go there. So I did, and I got a hold of a priest and I said, where was he murdered? And they showed me the north transept where there is an eternal light. And I said, where is the body? Oh, don't you know, said the priest. Henry VIII had it destroyed because he didn't want people venerating a saint who had defied a king. So, well, I don't know whether I lived in Canterbury before or not. I have no specific memory. I just know that I was drawn to it. I was just drawn to it. So, and to the music. You see, we cannot claim to have specific knowledge when we don't. And I don't have any specific knowledge of past lives. I just have these affinities to cultures, to locations, and no affinity to Eastern Europe whatsoever. None to Russia, where Blavatsky was born, of course. None to India, none to Egypt. Why? I don't know. You would think I would be interested in India, not the least, not the least.
I'd like to share some comments about past lives. I had an office at ARE in Houston, the Edgar Cayce Foundation, and I worked with many people. And basically, my specialty was future past life regression. So I did regressions to future past lives. So that's it out there. However, I aligned myself with Dr. John Mack, the Harvard psychiatrist, and Dolores Cannon in some of their works where ETs or spiritual beings would come through the person and they're actually a part of them or an aspect of them, and they've been there for maybe many lives, or they've come into this present life, or they're a walk-in. We call them a walk-in, a crawl-in, or a guest-in, some spiritual being that's inhabiting your body. So I just want to share this one thing about past lives, what they found out, and I found out also, and it's less than easy to determine the difference between these two things. One of them is an actual past life that your human soul spirit had, either on this planet or another planet or another dimensional reality, or an implanted past life, an implanted memory when you incarnated, or when the seed was, the sperm and the egg got together with your mom and dad. So it can be an implanted memory for the purpose of giving you direction in this particular incarnation. It could be a lot of things. So these things can come out if you go into trance work. I don't do hypnosis work with anyone, but if you go into trance work. And so anyway, just an idea of a thought of another possibility other than a past life. It could be an implanted memory of a past life to assist you in this incarnation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess we should end. No, it's getting late. Well, it's only 5 to 1.
Yeah, I have to go soon, so.
Yeah, Mary has to leave soon. So.
And I'm the techie here, so. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, Mary teaches
So,
computer.
Any last minute questions, or I got a couple emails. I got 2 emails out of the chat that you would like to be added to, Ed's. Oh, and Alfredo says, Earth is one big recycling machine. We die and we are reconstituted into new bodies. Matter and energy are not destroyed or made. That's true. And genes that we inherit probably have a memory from past lives. And I think a lot of things influence us, and only some of the things from past lives probably are what we remember. It could be a lot of things we remember. But thank you for that comment. And another person has to leave for a baby shower. Oh, okay. Another person says, add me to the list. Marcia, can you put an email in?
Send an email, please.
And I can just share the screen again so you can see Ed's. In fact, I'll put Ed's email in the chat so you can copy that. Did I type that right?
Okay, while you're typing that, Ed, thank you very much for sharing with us today, answering all the questions as usual. I really learned a lot from your wisdom. And thank you, Mary, as well, for organizing the slide and trying to facilitate all the chat information.
Okay, thank you, Chet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you, Houston Lodge.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good
you.
to see you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.